You're watching Indian Dialogues. Namaskar, I am Ajay Kumar. The disquiet spread across the Himalayan foothill town Haldwani today yells at the top of its voice. Why did I burn? It asks. Since 8th of February, when Banbhoolpur area of Haldwani saw extreme violence, the obvious question is, can a mob, an organized mass for targeted action, a set of people hell-bent on challenging the state machinery, be allowed to run amok? If not, then how come a police chowki was encircled and put to fire and burnt to ashes? How is it that more than 100 policemen were severely injured, many with severe burns? Hundreds of government vehicles and a few bulldozers were also burnt. Some act like a ticking time bomb, isn't it? More than 250 people formed a consortium and pelted stones in a very organized manner, used petrol bombs and other projectiles to injure, harm, and eventually kill state officials. Should the state administration then stand mute witness to this mayhem or act? And if it acts, in return, it gets a press coverage internationally, of course, that the Indian state forcefully demolished a mosque and a madrasa in violation of a pending court matter. Well, this is exactly what has been done to make happen post the passage of Uniform Civil Code bill by the Uttrakhand government. On the face of it, the two incidents, mass violence in Haldwani and passage of UCC, do not seem to be linked at all, as the Banbhoolpur area has been facing the disquiet since 2022. The residents of Banbhoolpur area have been highly restive since the Uttrakhand High Court passed its order of eviction from the railway land forcefully acquired by the minority communities over a couple of decades. The extremely congested slum-like patch within Banbhoolpur is predominantly Muslim. With over 1 lakh homes, this swath looks like a complete Islamic habitation. Most of these settlements started by occupying the Nazool land, a government land which can be leased out for short-term purposes by the state government to the citizens. But later, this was expanded into encroachment of a huge tract of land which belonged to the railways. And this tract of land is just adjacent to the Haldwani station. A disturbing trend which has recently been observed in this area has been mass migration of Muslim families from Uttar Pradesh towns which have substantive Muslim population. So the question is, why would Muslims leave their own areas of residence for very long durations and move to Haldwani, and that too in a congested slum? It is believed that this migration has peaked over the past 20 years as better job and business opportunities have emerged in Uttarakhand, especially after the creation of Uttarakhand. It is this migration which has been flagged by various Sangha Parivar organizations and have been termed land jihad. Point that is to be noted is that since the year 2000, in all assembly polls, Congress has pocketed this assembly seat, except only for once in 2007 when the BJP could win this particular assembly seat. Polarization on community lines has been evident since the 60s, a fact well utilized for political gains by the Congress party. The anti-encroachment drive has been initiated by the state government on the insistence of the Indian Railways, which desires to expand the Haldwani station but is unable to do so due to massive encroachment. Armed with Uttrakhand High Court order, Haldwani Municipality has been undertaking anti-encroachment drives. Some 30 acres of land occupied by madrasas and mazars have been vacated till now. On 8th of February, another mosque in Malik Ka Bagicha was demolished by the municipal authorities in consonance with the police staff. The notice for the demolition was given in January, with the last date for the mosque which was there to be shifted by 31st of January 2024. While repeated extensions were provided by the municipality just before the last deadline, which was about to end and the Demolition Act was supposed to take place, the couple Abdul Malik and Safia Malik moved to the court to stop this state action, claiming that the land on which the mosque and madrasa was built has been leased by the government in 1937 and was sold to this family in 1994. Since 2007, the petition for the renewal of the lease was languishing with the district administration. The plea was on behalf of poor children who are being educated at the madrasa. Leaving the legality behind, it is very clear that an attempt was being made by the Malik family to prevent the anti-encroachment drive and especially keep the illegal occupation of government land. And why do I say so? Let me just put it very simply. How can an individual claim ownership of government land and claim property rights over it when the land in the first place belongs to the government? It's a Nazool land, it's a railway property. Then how can it belong to an individual? And how was the property sold to this particular family in 1994? But then such rationale do not really apply when the intent is to create chaos. Since 2022, the restive mobs, the political nexus, the minority appeasement tactics have been at play. And what better opportunity to exploit the minority complex sentiment which has peaked within the state with the Uttrakhand Assembly passing the UCC bill. It's been heavily opposed by Muslim community across the country and also in Uttarakhand. Now please listen in to Taqir Raza, a prominent Bahrelvi Sunni leader from the prominent Allah Hazrat family. This gentleman will give you the gist of what and how the Muslim community is being incited.
हमने अपने नौजवानों को कंट्रोल किया हुआ है, अगर कंट्रोल से बाहर हो गए तो हुकूमत के लिए बड़ी दिक्कतें पेश आ जाएंगी। जैसे आपने देखा होगा कि गीजर में सेफ्टी वाल्व लगा होता है, लावा अंदर अंदर बहुत पनप रहा है, बहुत बड़ा ब्लास्ट हो सकता है। मैंने ये छोटा सा काम करके लोगों के जज्बात को कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश की है और सेफ्टी वाल्व का काम किया है। मैंने उस प्रेशर को दूसरे रास्ते से निकाला है ताकि वो जो हमारे शहर का अमन खराब ना हो। हुकूमत को हमारा इसमें साथ देना चाहिए। अगर हुकूमत दंगा और फसाद चाहती है तो हम तैयार हैं, न पुलिस की लाठी से डरते हैं न गोली से डरते हैं।
And now sample this statement by Jamaat-e-Islami Hind President Sayyid Sadatullah Hasnini. I am quoting him. The kind of brutal force the police has used against the protesters, resulting in the killing of many Muslims, is highly condemnable. It is alleged that machine guns have been used and hundreds of rounds were fired as if the police was fighting an enemy state. Several recent actions taken by different governments appear to have the vile intention of provoking people and inciting violence. Whether it is the demolition of mosques, the arrest of Muslim clerics, undue interference in Muslim personal law, bulldozer action and demolition of properties, patronage bestowed on those convicted of heinous hate crimes against Muslims. the law is being exploited as a weapon to harass and terrorize Muslims. Can you understand the gist of this statement by such a prominent mass following organization? It clearly denotes something sinister is cooking. Such statements, provocations, and incitements are not incidental. It seems they are very well planned, coordinated, and intended to create unrest and divide the polity as well as damage the social fabric. Mind you, this is not the first time or an isolated, vitiated atmosphere that is now being created. Post Pran Pratishtha, when puja was allowed in the basement of Gyanvapi Mosque under the court orders, the court hearing the reclamation petition of Krishna Janmabhoomi, all these taken together are being used as opportunities for inciting minorities. And a number of such statements are being made by Muslim leaders all across the country. Even parliamentarians like Asaduddin Owaisi is on record and says that we shall not surrender our rights over Gyanvapi Masjid or even at Mathura. When taken in totality, it appears to be a well-coordinated, pre-planned strategy whereby issues like temple, demolition of mosque, Uniform Civil Code, CAA, all are being tied together into an anti-minority sentiment which is suffering under the so-called brute Hinduized majoritarian state led by none other than Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That the BJP government is changing the democratic, secular nature of India, that is Bharat, and stifling out the minority to make India a theocratic Hindu state. This is the notion which is being reinforced amongst the minorities. Interestingly, a wide section of Western press is propagating and publishing articles and various other forms of information along the same lines, basically demeaning and demoralizing the Indian state, vilifying the Indian state while touting minority rights as being massively curtailed. It is therefore a violent, aggressive, and disdainful act by a small group of minority miscreants. It is completely overlooked, and the entire violence at Haldwani is being viewed with the prism of minority complex, minority brutalization, and subjugation. And it is this narrative that shall find its way through the Lok Sabha elections to consolidate and polarize the minorities to push forward the vote bank politics. Now, which party or parties shall benefit from this minority polarization is not very difficult for you to understand.